anything is as a service is great until something breaks or you got to integrate it with something else. And then you really still need that service provider. You're going to need someone to come in there and help facilitate making that work. Everyone kind of likes the, hey, sell the license with 80% margin kind of model. The software manufacturer, hey, sell it and scale. It's a tough balance. The as a service is fun on the subscription side. Getting involved in people's day-to-day operations is a big responsibility.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Incident Report presented by Quest Technology Management. I'm Paul Burke, Director of Technology Communications. Every week, I'm joined by VP of Sales and Partnerships, Adam Burke. The Incident Report brings you conversations with thought leaders, business innovators, and channel mavericks to help you stay productive and agile in a changing technology landscape. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Incident Report. I hope you enjoyed that spooky tech music that we found specifically for this episode. I'm your host, Paul Burke. Well, I'm one of your hosts. Across from me, Adam Burke. How are you doing?
Good, Paul. This is my favorite time of year. It's getting cold outside. You know, football is in full swing. The Yankees are losing in the postseason, which is just fantastic. And, I'm having a good day. Happy to be here.
It's that special time of year, Adam, where baseball, basketball, and football all being played at the same time. So we get to lose on bets 3 times the normal amount.
That's true. I do not recommend gambling at all, but if you do, it is a good time to place your bets if that type of activity suits you in any way.
How was your weekend?
It was fun. I quit the 49er game about halfway through. That was just depressing, but other than that, it was a great weekend, good family time, and plugging away, enjoying the fall. How about you?
The best thing about the football game yesterday was the sandwich in front of me. It was a bad football game. The Niners did not do well, but the sandwich was spectacular.
It was very disappointing on all fronts, but We're not here to talk sports, Paul. We're here to talk what?
Technology, information in the channel, things we think you need to know. But before that, Adam, real quick, I need to ask. I saw on an Instagram reel, did you have a hard time balancing for like 12 seconds on one foot?
No, that was completely unfounded and misrepresentation. Fake news. Okay. That was a test of your balance with your eyes closed. So basically It's a longevity test to see like how long. They did a study and they found that if you were able to stand on one leg with your eyes closed by age group, a certain amount of time, it directly correlated with morbidity rate, right? So when you were going to die. So it was kind of a creepy study, but after I tucked in my youngest daughter, I was reading that study while I was putting her to bed. Kind of weird, but anyways. So I'm reading that study and I decided to come out, and Kelly filmed me doing it for like the 3rd time. I averaged 34 seconds, but she caught me on one where I kind of shimmied back and forth, and she dubbed over some Encanto music, and it was a little embarrassing, but it was either Encanto or Coco, one of those Pixar movies. Basically, it looked like I was dancing in a mariachi band, and it was, that was out of context.
When I saw that you couldn't stand up for 12 seconds on one foot, Adam, I felt really good about myself. I can do the same thing a marathon runner could do. This is fantastic.
It's a balancing thing with your eyes closed. And it is kind of fun to do that test and see how long you can stand with your eyes closed on one foot. Don't do it around any sharp objects or anything like that, or countertops, or, just make sure you're holding on to something. Yeah. Be careful.
It sounds like a weird Final Destination sort of test.
Yeah. Don't do it around any random trays and knives or any, Final Destination. There's a creepy movie. That's a great way to figure out how things end out.
Happy Halloween, everybody. We're talking a little Final Destination. We're talking a little technology. Our first article up is channelfutures.com. From boxes to bytes, why distributors must digitally transform to protect profits. The size of the IT professional service market continues to grow, with the market totaling an estimated worth of $821 billion. Opportunities abound for vendors, manufacturers, MSPs, and ISVs. Yet, despite the industry's enormous growth, one player of late has had a more difficult time increasing profit margins: IT distributors. The author goes on to talk about 3 clear roles to revamp the IT distributor model. And it begins with a move toward operational efficiency in the digital distribution space.
That is awesome an awesome statement there. So backing up real quick, the role of distributors in the IT market, for those who don't know, if you're kind of new to the, the channel or the reseller or the MSP game, tons of vendors out there, tons of software manufacturers, hardware manufacturers, people like that. So people who create software, people who try to take that software to market or try to take that hardware to market. A distributor, pretty simple, helps them distribute that to the market through different channels, resellers, consultants, MSPs, that type of thing. So it's really hard to take a product to market to the people who are actually buying it, right? So same as like in the beverage industry, same as in like the manufacturing and construction industry, there are distribution hubs, and same as in IT, these distributors help manufacturers and software development, ISVs, take their product and get it out to the marketplace. So for anyone who doesn't know, that's the role of distribution. And we're seeing it take all sorts of different forms. When you brought up this article, I think it was great because it's highlighting how not only are customers having to, customers and consumers of technology having to develop and maintain and upgrade their systems in order to stay competitive. The supply chain itself, which the distributors are a massive part of, are having to upgrade. And so this first one is digitizing their marketplace in a way that they can easily transact with one of their partners who's helping to bring their vendors' products to market.
Two things. One, thanks for walking us through what a distributor is. And two, the article mentions IT distributors can expand their market share as enterprise computing providers selling data centers, cybersecurity storage, and analytics to large companies. In short, distributors are now becoming anything as a service retailers. Are you seeing that in the marketplace?
Yeah, so these guys, a lot of them are kind of putting up these storefronts and basically trying to, and they're all taking different forms, right? We worked with different distribution organizations around the country since we started. They're the ones that have helped us move hardware and product and software. And then 10 years ago, we started going towards distribution ourselves as a service provider, right? So we have, for example, 2 data centers in Northern California, and we do services all over the country. Well, someone in Poughkeepsie isn't going to necessarily know that Quest has a fantastic data center offering, right? How are they going to know that? I don't have a rep in Poughkeepsie, but the distributors can help tell the story out to the marketplace about if you're in the market for a data center in a certain region, who has capacity there, who's a good provider there, right? So distribution, they're trying to communicate as best they can to those different marketplaces about the options the end consumer or other VARs and managed service providers have. It's about kind of that speed of making a decision and getting as much information as you can as quickly as you can. That's kind of what they're all trying to compete for right now.
We should also note that the hybrid delivery model is a factor in operational efficiency. A sample of companies analyzed by CloudBlue found that the hybrid delivery model generated overall gross profits of up to 13%, while traditional distributors struggled to surpass 4%.
When you're distributing software, there's not a lot of overhead to do that. You got to have a call center. You got to be able to support MSPs and VARs and partners, to come in, select the appropriate technology, and then you got to deal with all the paperwork and the agreements. But if you can scale that, these distribution models these companies are massive. We saw Tech Data, acquire Cinex. We saw multi-billion-dollar deals going down because really they're supporting part of the IT economy, right? There are thousands of resellers, there are thousands of MSPs, and they all have to have agreements to purchase hardware and software from somebody, right? No one's really creating anything, with any type of proprietary information other than, hey, I'm putting together a package for you to acquire that someone else has built, right? So how are you going to do that quickly and efficiently? That's what a lot of these guys are trying to figure out, how to make that as simple as possible for the people out there talking to the end users.
A second key component to digitally transformed IT distributor is a focus on streamlining operations.
Yeah, and these X as a service retailers, it's funny because this is the exact opposite of what Quest does, but we use distributors, right? So when I see these business plans for distribution, it's like, hey, you got to scale and you got to standardize and you got to rinse and repeat and do it 1,000 times because you're only going to make between 6 to 10%, and you got to go and scale, which is absolutely right if that's your business plan. If your business plan is to get as big as possible and get as much through that goose as you can, that's absolutely right. You have to standardize that. And we appreciate that because when we're going out there to source technology, we got to know the rules, and we got to know the rules, right? If I get invited in to talk to a customer and they're asking me for, hey, Adam, I need 500 licenses to protect my endpoints and have you monitor and manage those. I don't have any proprietary software that does that, but I have distribution and I have relationships with software manufacturers that I can pick from and say, okay, this is the customer's use case. I have this library of services over here that I can pick from. Which one's going to best suit it? And then how can I easily procure that and bundle it into my service offering and then deliver it for the end user, right? That has to be consistent. If there's any type of doubt in my mind around what that license is ultimately going to cost me, what my liabilities are around the renewal of that license, and also, hey, what are my liabilities around, is that license, is that software product any good, right? So distributors help educate on what products are good out there. They help standardize your purchasing. How am I going to purchase this effectively and consistently? My solution as the service provider might be customized, but in order to create, like, if I'm baking a cake, I don't want to have to figure out what flour and what baking soda I'm going to have to use. I want that to be standard. Those are my building blocks while I'm baking this custom beautiful cake over here for my customer. Mm-hmm. But when you're working with distribution, they got to scale. They got to move as much flour and sugar as they can, and make sure that they're helping, people in the MSP and the service provider world deliver a consistent outcome.
When we talk about streamlining and talk about scaling, there is the need for a financial investment as well as a shift in business operations. It's a big mindset shift. And do you see a lot of having difficulty in that mindset adjustment?
Yeah, it's a huge decision. It's a multi-year type of a transition because they've been, the distribution models have been baked for years, right? They've been, hey, this is how it's done. You get the PO, you push the PO here, you send the PO to this team, you book the order, and that sales order flows all the way to the manufacturer. A lot of sales and technology and how people consume has a lot to do with how people get paid and when they get paid. Can you process an order quickly? Can you tag that order back to the sales rep at the manufacturer who was involved in the deal, helping to get that deal done, right? These guys are competing against each other to basically say, hey, we got the transaction, we got you. Here's how you are going to, make millions of dollars through our distribution channel. They have 2 customers. They have to recruit, and I don't feel sorry for them. They're multi-billion-dollar companies, so they can walk it off. But it's a tough business what they're dealing with because they're dealing with the manufacturers, right? They're dealing with people like Cisco and Microsoft and VMware and NetApp and Pure Storage and all these different manufacturers out there who all have to make their number. And they have sales reps, they have channel managers, they have regional managers, they got VPs of sales that are all trying to make their number. While at the same time, they have partners out there like, Quest and other VARs who have their sales reps, who have their customers, who are all trying to get the product and make their number. And then you have this distributor smack dab in the middle who's trying to evangelize their benefit to both of those people. Manufacturer, we can help you get to all of these VARs that we have in our book of business. And then on the other side, they're out recruiting VARs saying, hey, VARs, we have all these manufacturers in our book, and we can make sure that you're fully aligned with their sales team. And we'll get you the best price and the most discounted points from these guys because we put the most volume licensing through our organization. So
it sounds like an exhausting juggling act.
Well, it's a lot. I mean, they're facilitating a portion of the economy, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, you really have to kind of hats off to the ones who do it well. We work with a few of them that we think, hey, honestly, they do a great job. They charge a small percentage for what they do, right? The manufacturer pays a little bit of that. We pay a little bit of that as the value added reseller or the MSP, right? But they really do facilitate some pretty cool transactions. And we're seeing more and more of them go to this digital strategy where someone on our MSP team can log in and say, okay, we just got a new customer, or an existing customer, they just added 50 new users. There are situations where we can almost fully add all licensing and everything to that new user through a digital marketplace. Now, do you have to touch physical machines, and do you have to do some scripting and some other things specifically to deploy things? Yeah, there's always that, but it's getting pretty slick with what people can do from these distributors and pulling down licensing.
Let me say that I'm really enjoying this article, and I find it very educational, but I will say there are certain phrases that sound like they're glossing over a big topic. Do you know what I mean, Adam? Like phrases that just, it doesn't add up.
Give me some general specifics, Paul.
A thing of the past. The phrase, a thing of the past, Adam. I'm always suspicious when somebody says a thing of the past. I'm like, well, I don't know if it's going to completely go away. It mentions the costly bottom line considerations such as warehouse space will soon become a thing of the past.
Yeah, well, and it's funny. I mean, everyone wants to move away from physical, right? Because, you know, for half the people who lost their part of their net worth in the Bitcoin shenanigans over the last couple of years, there's this idea of the infinite, and you can continually scale, right? So if you can scale in the digital world with you have your fixed cost from what it costs you to develop that software, and then you just continually sell it. I mean, there's a reason Bill Gates is one of the richest dudes in the world. He's got software. It's amazingly scalable, and there's not a lot of limit there. Physical space, there's a limit, right? There's cost to lease a warehouse. There's people who have to maintain it. It falls apart eventually. Like, so there's limits to the physical world. In the digital world, there's no limits. You just got to host some servers, put up a website, and do some integration as far as a digital marketplace. Now there's a ton more to it than that, but that's the story that's being pitched out there, that, hey, everybody's going to go to this 100%. More often than not, when we get called into a help desk or a support desk engagement, one of the first questions our partners and our customers are asking us is like, hey, do you guys do depot services? And we get that question all the time. And that's a physical concept. That's hey, we're going to have some machines here ready and available to be dispatched to your people when you need them quickly. I think you're absolutely right there, Paul. Yeah, a thing of the past. Yeah.
Oh, Adam, our behind the scenes producer, Darcy, has added something else that deserves a second look. A phrase that caught our attention. Distributors are now going digital and offering their own everything as a service. Adam, is the marketplace getting a little too saturated in anything as a service models?
Not in Vegas. Wait, sorry. I think everyone kind of likes the anything as a service talk point, because, you know, people want to subscribe to services. Back to how people get paid and how people finance deals. The anything as a service model is fantastic if money is cheap. If you have low interest rates and I can buy $1 million worth of hardware and sell that to you over a 5-year period, and my cost of borrowing to acquire that hardware is 3%. Yeah, that's great. And you're okay paying a subscription and a managed services fee wrapped into that. That's fantastic. Things are going to change. Interest rates are changing, right? You know, costs of goods sold are changing. Financing is changing. That's all moving around. So I'll be interested to see how that works. Quest, we built out anything as a service model. It's not really anything as a service, but it's basically the idea of how would you like to consume it? Do you want to consume it as a subscription? Do you want to capitalize the purchase? Do you want to, you know, drop ship the hardware or send out the software? I think something we're not seeing for anything as a service in the distribution model is people actually talking to or working with end users. A lot of people are running away from professional services and services revenue just because, one, it's challenging to get right. It's difficult. It's not necessarily the most scalable thing in the world because people are involved. So you have to, like, one, talk to people, and two, interpret their needs and then work out an agreement to have them pay you to do what they want to do. So that's a challenge for for anybody who's trying to go beyond the transaction of anything as a service. Anything as a service is great until something breaks or you got to integrate it with something else. And then you really still need that, service provider. Of course, I'm talking my own book here. You're going to need someone to come in there and help facilitate making that work. Everyone kind of likes the, hey, sell the license with 80% margin kind of model. The software manufacturer, hey, sell it and scale. Talking to the people who are actually using it and then updating it and helping them keep it operational. Sometimes you get a feeling when you talk to these vendors, like, well, yeah, that's for you guys to figure out. We're gonna sell a ton of licenses. You guys go figure out how to make it work. So it's a tough balance. That as a service is fun on the subscription side. Getting involved in people's day-to-day operations is a big responsibility.
You're right. That's a huge responsibility, which I think ties into this article's number 3 point, offering digital expertise. Adam, when you hear digital expertise, what does that mean for you?
It's taking the agreements that you've had for years with your manufacturing partners, and then taking your VARs and your MSPs that have been your business partners. I'm talking from the mindset of a distributor right now, and connecting those two through a digital marketplace, right? So there used to be a way that, hey, I'm gonna send an email or pick up the phone. I'm gonna call distribution. I'm gonna say, hey, I need 10 of these widgets manufactured by XYZ company. Can you get me my cost as a reseller on these 10 widgets, or my cost as an MSP on these widgets? So it's analog, right? What's my quote? So then they would go to the manufacturer and they would get their distribution quote. They'd add their margin to it, and then they'd quote us back. And so you have this analog process of phone calls and emails and conversations, and okay, I need the quote, and you get the quote, and okay, cool, add markup, all that kind of stuff. What they're trying to do, and what some of them are successfully doing, are putting together these digital marketplaces that basically automate that entire analog process at that screen, where you go to their website and you say, I need to consume X licenses. What's my cost? That all happens right there. It's a digital experience, no people involved. You get your cost, and then you get to make your decision as a business partner with that distributor, saying, okay, here's what the market cost is. Here's what I'm buying it for from distribution. I get to go out and figure out how I'm going to either price my managed service or how I'm going to resell that to my consumer. It's really automating that transaction. Some people love it. Some people hate it.
You know what I love? This next article from channele2e.com, penned by Eric Anthony, director of Ignite. He ran a poll seeing what scares MSPs. And I love that he was honest, saying, I know it's a clickbaity title for October, but what scares MSP is a revealing read. In his poll, 22% of respondents said cyber risk client incident was their biggest concern. That was number 3 on the list. However, cyber risk MSP incident came in way lower at 8%. So while MSPs are concerned about cyber risk for their clients, they are not concerned about cyber risk for themselves, or at least way lower.
Yeah, that is interesting. It doesn't necessarily match up with some things I've been seeing in the market. I was reading an article last week that about 60 to 75% of the MSP and service provider market have suffered an incident. So, I mean, they're a big for bad actors and for the hacking community. So I'm not quite sure if that's just whistling past the graveyard by the MSP community or what, but it's definitely higher on my concern list as far as.
Funny you should mention that, because Eric attributes some of these answers to MSPs sticking their head in the sand or insisting that they have it handled. So MSPs are insisting they have everything handled, or they are sticking their head in the sand thinking that if I don't see any evil, there will be no evil.
I think oftentimes when you're evaluating your own risk profile, you got to think like a bad guy. And if you're trying to think like a bad guy and you want to go after the biggest bang for your buck, are you going to go after one client, or are you going to go after someone who has access to thousands of clients? So if I was a bad actor and I was looking to hold someone for ransom, I would probably go after the organization that touched the most organizations that I could hold for ransom.
Good strategy. Good strategy, Adam. You shouldn't do it, but good strategy. Number 2 on the list, coming at 27%, was getting new clients. And interesting that keeping existing clients was down at 8%. So everybody's trying to get them, but only 8% are trying to hold them.
It's another funny one because it's interesting how it points these out, some of these, the differences or the dichotomy here. But yeah, getting new clients it's fantastic. You definitely want to focus on, new business development and things like that. Adding new clients as an MSP it takes time to do it right. Getting them onboarded, understanding things, getting that all ironed out. That can be a lot. And then maintaining your existing, that's your bread and butter. That's your gold there. That's your biggest opportunity. So, well, I think about 80% of MSPs fail to make it to 3 years. So some of these answers might not be that surprising, actually.
Oh, so they may not have that much bread and butter.
Well, they might not have much bread and butter, but when you're looking at some of these decisions and some of the ways they're evaluating these things, I'm just saying it might not be surprising they don't make it past year 3 with that mentality.
The people voting on this poll are like not long for this MSP world.
Yeah.
You must proactively engage existing clients to ensure their satisfaction and reduce the reasons and opportunities for churn. Hold on to the customers you already have, work with them. Like you said, they're bread and butter, and churn is costly.
Churn costs money and onboarding costs a lot of money. And it's always great to get new logos and get new folks on board with you. But yeah, man, that your existing customers, I would be similar with Eric here. It's really, really important to understand, what's important to them, what's going on with their business, and then how do you maintain and either grow or adjust to their needs.
Great point. And finally, coming in at number one is cash flow. 29% are concerned about cash flow.
Well, I'd be curious, like what type of MSPs and what size he's working with, but that there are certain things that are, they sometimes can be taken for granted in just business operations in general. And one of them is billing and collecting revenue and getting that cash flow operational and getting a process built around that. That's really dangerous. I mean, and MSPs have fixed costs. They have people, they have licensing subscriptions, they have service commitments, they might have some data center space. There's a lot that goes into building, operating, and maintaining a successful managed services practice. It's not all the latest and greatest technology. That's part of it. But the meat and potatoes, the operations is huge because you got to maintain your workforce. You got to make sure that they're getting their paychecks. You got to make sure that your vendors are getting paid. There's a lot to it. And so, yeah, with that poll going out there, helping people understand that business model, that's half of what we do in our partner program is working with MSPs, working with other solution providers, having those business conversations like, hey, this is a great idea. How do you plan on making money with this? What's the outcome you as an MSP are looking to do? Just as an example, one of our services that we put together, we work with a lot of MSPs on is our backup as a service offerings, right? So they, bundle things together. We provide targets. We own and operate data centers. We own and operate and manage backups for folks. But there's a whole business discussion around how you're going to price that, right? How am I going to price that to our partners? Mm-hmm. How are they going to price that to their customers? And how do you maintain, consistent cash flow? It's a big part of any MSP operator's day for sure. So yeah, that was one I actually agreed with on this is, hey, cash flows, if you don't have cash flow, you're dead. So probably a good thing.
Great point. Get that money.
I didn't read that. I didn't read, make that paper or anything in there in the notes here. But yeah, that it is the reason that a lot of these organizations are put together is cash flow. So make sure you focus on that first.
I'm glad we talked about that because you're right. Without that, you're dead in the water. That's a great point. Adam, we did it. We talked about the 2 articles we thought were the most important thing people in the channel need to know.
These are great. I'm glad we found them and appreciate everyone's time today. This has been fun. And if we don't talk before Halloween, have a great and safe Halloween coming up soon. Be safe out there.
Adam, next week, where are we at? We're both going to be there.
We are both going to be there. We're going to be the Talking Stick at Scottsdale, Arizona for Channel Vision Expo and Conference starting on November 2nd, going through the 4th. Please stop by. If you're not attending, please get your ticket and come and visit us. We're going to have a booth as well as a Quest Lounge for folks to meet, come do some podcast interviews, talk with the team. meet with the Quest channel team while we're all in town here. So really looking forward to it. Next week, the 2nd through the 4th, Channel Vision Solutions Expo at the Talking Stick in Scottsdale, Arizona.
It'll be a great event, so looking forward to it. And finally, be sure to join Quest and Trellix at our webinar, Stress-Free XDR, What is it and Why It Matters, on Tuesday, November 18th at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, with featured speakers Adam Burke, Quest VP of Sales and Partnerships, and John Main, Trellix Senior Channel Sales Engineer. You will learn what stress-free XDR looks like, how it impacts your business, best practices for SOC, retaining talent, and so much more. Register here and discover how Quest and Trellix can impact your business stress-free. Adam, have an amazing week. Glad you're here. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, and we'll see you next week.
Appreciate it, Paul. Have a good week, everybody.
Thanks so much for listening. The Incident Report is brought to you by Quest Technology Management. With over 40 years of experience, Quest is a leading technology integrator working seamlessly with your staff and systems to achieve your IT goals. Learn more about everything they do at questsys.com. And if you have questions or suggestions for the podcast, you can always email Adam and myself at theincidentreport@questsys.com. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.